Okay. Hey, Melvin, how are you?
I am doing better than good, Douglas. How about you?
I'm doing fine, thank you. Thank you for coming on the show.
It's a pleasure.
You're in South Africa, right?
I am in KwaZulu-Natal, South Africa, the state of my birth.
My geography of South Africa is not that good. How far are you from Johannesburg or Cape Town?
Uh, just about, I'm just about 6.5 hours away from Johannesburg. A
Six.
6.5 hour drive.
Oh, well, that's still pretty far away, yeah?
Yes.
So you'd be further away from Cape Town then?
I'd be at least a 12 hour drive from Cape Town, if not more.
Oh, South Africa's a bigger country than I thought, yeah?
It truly is, yes.
Wow, okay. So you were born there, rural South Africa. According to your bio, it says you were born there during apartheid, which ended in when? 1994?
1994, correct.
Okay. What was life like under apartheid? Probably not that wonderful.
It wasn't wonderful. It was a lot of we just didn't know how different we were. We didn't know that other people didn't live like this. We thought it was normal to live in segregated settings. We thought it was normal to not trust people that looked different from the way you looked. It's only after I honestly left South Africa did it fully hit me just how oppressed and how segregated a life I had lived.
Whites and non whites were segregated in all public establishments.
Correct. There was the Land Areas Act that kept people separate. At the beaches, for example, you had a different place for whites and for non whites. And even after apartheid officially ended, people still stayed in their own little zones. There was sort of this unwritten rule of where you could remain and where you could be.
So even
Yes,
even after the laws went down, people just stayed amongst their own as well, pretty much. Yeah.
absolutely.
Mm.
Absolutely.
Well, that could be human nature too.
That is true. Yes,
Okay, so you grew up during that, and then at some point you moved to New Zealand.
that is correct.
When did you move to New Zealand?
So that would have been the year 2001. I decided to pack two suitcases and go to Auckland, New Zealand, because that's what I saw in the movies. Just pack two suitcases and go and make it big. So I thought life was just like that.
Well, it's very commendable of you to just sort of pack up and leave. There must have been something in New Zealand that drew you there, though.
The I was leaving South Africa due to the tremendous poverty that my family had lived in. And my eldest brother, sadly, tragically, he was studied law, became a lawyer, and he was going to be the economic hope. Tragically, he drowned, and that left the whole weight of the family on my shoulders. So I had to leave South Africa to find a job in Auckland, New Zealand, selling house alarms, burglar alarms. So that was what I was going for to follow my dream.
How old were you when you left for New Zealand?
I was just a little over 21 years old. That's when I left.
Oh, okay. How many people in your family?
At that time, it's mom and dad and six children, so it's eight of us
Wow.
in our family
So, selling home alarm systems, that's where you went to New
in
Zealand
Auckland,
for?
New Zealand. Yes, some people joke it was like trying to sell ice to the wonderful Eskimo people.
Well, how did you find that job? That just seems like kind of an obscure job to go all the way
it,
across the world for.
It truly was, Douglas. It was one of those amazing encounters in life when you don't expect it, when you at the bottom, when you're at the pit, there's hopelessness and you don't know where you're going. I just went for a walk one day to a supermarket in Auckland, New Zealand, just looking for a job. And there I met a guy in a security outfit, and I said, "Hey, I'm looking for a job." He says, "Well, we employ." So I got my job in Auckland, New Zealand, like that.
Okay, so you were going door to door selling these things?
Correct. Going door to door and selling burglar alarms. I joke with people. People liked me, but they didn't like me that much to give me the money that the alarms for the alarms. So I was dead broke within 3 months. I couldn't sell, and I got kicked out of the boarding house where I was staying at because I couldn't pay my rent. And thankfully, the owner of the alarm company said, if you can sleep in the company floors, well, go ahead and sleep in the boardroom. So the boardroom under the table became my bedroom for a
Wow,
long time.
that is amazing. Just out of curiosity, how much did these alarm systems cost?
Those alarms would back then cost about 3,000 New Zealand dollars.
Oh,
So it was quite a bit of money for those alarms, yes.
I don't know the exchange to New Zealand to the US dollar, but that's probably, I know it's a bit less, so that might be even 2,500 US or
Around
something.
2,000, correct.
Yeah,
Just a
something
little
like
over
that.
2,000 US.
Still expensive. That's still a lot of money.
It was expensive.
Okay, so you were sleeping under the table in the boardroom at this company?
Correct. I'd wake up early in the morning, I'd have a glass of water and a slice of dried bread, and I'd hit the road door knocking, hoping for a miracle, praying for a miracle, waiting for something to happen in my life that would change the trajectory of everything that I ever knew. And one day that miracle happened for me. Just outdoor knocking, and my life completely changed.
Well, you got to tell us that story.
Yes. Well, it was a day just like any other day, a normal day, nothing spectacular. I went out door knocking with my alarm in my suitcase, and I came to a public library in Auckland, New Zealand. Something's telling me on the inside, go into this library. I go into the library and something's kind of prompting my heart, look at the audio book section, the cassette tapes. I find an audio tape with a name of a very interesting man, Zig Ziglar. It cost $2 to rent the tape. And you know, $2 is a lot of money when you don't have one. Thankfully, I had $2, and that was going to be my lunch that day. But I decided to rent that tape. I played the tape, and from the time he opened his mouth till the end, I was so inspired, I was so encouraged, and I wept like a little baby right from start to finish.
Okay, I don't know who Zig Ziglar is. Why don't you tell us who he is?
Zig Ziglar would be what we would say today the grandfather of motivation, a disciple of Norman Vincent Peale, a man who's reached 250 million people back when the internet wasn't around. So most sales companies, leadership companies would quote Zig Ziglar. One of the things he'd often say is nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care, and those sort of things. And so I listened to his audio tape, and he said some things in there that radically changed my life and the way I viewed sales and business. He said, you can get everything in life that you want if you just help enough other people get what they want. And he came to the end of the tape, and you may have heard of this quote there, Douglas. He came to the end of the tape and he said, and I will see you at the top. And so that was Zig Ziglar's tagline. Well, as he came to the end of the tape, I said, well, Mr. Ziglar, one day I am going to see you at the top, and I am going to stand on the same stage you are, and I am going to speak. And so I went back to work from a struggling salesman. I listened to his tape over and over again, put it into practice. I became the top salesman, sales manager. Eventually, I had my own dealership within 18 months. And then 7 years later, I found myself in Dallas, Texas at a seminar. I was talking to a group of people about this. They said, young man, you need to go on the platform and share this wonderful journey. I go on top and I share this testimony, and Zig Ziglar is seated in the audience.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's amazing. Okay, you listened to the tape a few times, And the next time you went out door to door selling these alarms, what changed? Your approach?
My attitude changed. He said something in the tape that really struck me. He said, your business is never good or bad out there. Your business is good or bad right here in between your own two ears. And if your thinking is stinking, your business is heading in the same direction. Well, at that time, I had some pretty stinking thoughts in my mind of unworthiness and rejection and fear. So that teaching and his philosophy helped me to get away from these stumbling blocks that made me so often fail in sales even before I tried.
So you went up to a house and you sold immediately after listening to the tape?
I started selling the next day because I believed what he said. He said this to me. I wish I could put my arms on the cassette tape. I wish I could put my arms around you, look you in your eye, and tell you that I believe in you, because I truly do. I never believed in myself. For the first time in my life, I believed in me. And so that sort of confidence came out when I was selling my products. Before that, people didn't trust me because I was going in there with no confidence. They most likely thought I was lying. But now I truly believed in me and I believed in my products. I believed that if they bought the alarm, it would protect their lives.
So you continued with this company then?
I did. When I got off the platform on that beautiful day, his vice president, Mr. Ziglar's vice president, put his arms around me and said, young man, you need to come work with me. So I got certified and trained as a Zig Ziglar speaker and a coach. And today I'm one of only 8 Zig Ziglar Platinum speakers. And so it's now my profession to motivate, lead, and to teach people.
Is Mr. Ziglar still alive or has he passed away?
He passed on about a good 6-7 years ago, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, but his company is still around. Yeah.
It is. It's run by his son, Tom Ziglar.
Okay, and that's where you currently used to work for that company?
We were independent speakers and trainers, and we currently still are independent speakers and trainers for the Ziglar organization, yes.
Oh, I see. So it's sort of a franchise.
It's somewhat like that, yes.
Okay, so what exactly do you do? Explain what you do at
So,
now.
so the first thing I do is I'm a motivational speaker, and I teach leadership, and I teach business growth through dynamic sales techniques and the ability to connect with your audience and then lead them into finding their life's purpose.
Okay, who is your audience? Is this a general public or do you go to specific corporations that hire you?
The general public's my audience, and then the key group that I work with would be small business people, entrepreneurs and the like. So they have now become my clients.
Oh, I see. Okay. And
Yes.
you're doing all of this from South Africa, but well, COVID might have sort of stifled your in person, but
Yes.
certainly you could do this online, right?
Absolutely. I'm actually based in Dallas, Texas. I'd come to South Africa 2 months ago to work with some political leaders and business leaders here, because South Africa had suffered a tremendous unrest and riots that had broken out.
I saw that.
And so I'd
Yeah.
come to help the leaders, yes.
Oh, I see.
So I've just been here about two months now.
But you're living in Dallas, Texas, primarily, right?
I'm living in Dallas, Texas, correct. That's where I travel from.
Oh, well, good for you. Is your family still in South Africa, or did they move with you?
I've got two of my siblings here, one in New Zealand and one in Australia.
Oh, all
So
over
they
the
did,
place.
after I went and forged the path, they followed after that.
Oh, well, that's great. We've got just a couple minutes left, and I wanted to mention, you said you had a book called The Power of Eight. When did the book come out?
The book came out at least about 3 years ago, Douglas.
Okay, can you give us like a 1-minute synopsis of the book?
Absolutely. The book is basically written for people that are in the world of business and sales and are caught up in the rat race of life. So the power of eight, there are 8 principles that help you to find rest and peace and more success by working less.
Okay, what a great synopsis. I
Yes.
like that. Melvin, we do have to wrap this up. We are out of time. Do you have a website that you want to give out?
I do. Thank you. My www.melvinpillay.com. So melvinpillay.com.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. Very inspiring story.